Welcome you to yet another exciting edition of Galaxy Line, your weekend current affairs personality interview program. I caught a very big fish for you today, a golden fish for that matter. He is former Catholic seminarian turned solicitor and advocate. He attended the Sacred Heart Catholic Seminary in the early 70s, and he almost took the oath of celibacy before changing his mind. He veered into law and ultimately took a law degree from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, in 1981. He was called to the bar in 1982. He began human rights activism in 1983 and got shot into instant limelight in the early 80s with the case of the 7 students of the University of Ibadan who got arrested for protesting for their fundamental rights. In 1991, he established his own law chamber and then moved on to climb to the pinnacle of legal practice in Nigeria. He became a senior advocate of Nigeria in 2012. And much more than that, he is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Arbitrators of Nigeria and a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, the International Bar Association, the Pan-African Lawyers Union, and the West African Bar Association. Aside from his regular appearances in Nigerian courts, he has represented victims of human rights abuse at the Community Court of Justice of the Gambia and ECOWAS, the Special Court of Sierra Leone, and the African Court on Human Rights of Tanzania. My guest today has plenty of professional and meritorious laurels to his credit. They include the Kwame Nkrumah Leadership Award, the Bernard Simons Human Rights Award, and the American Bar Association Institute of Human Rights Award. I have the greatest pleasure now to feature today on Galaxy Line the one and only Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and the biological father of the popular pop musician Falz. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Out of your very, very busy schedule.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate your coming. Well, we'll take a quick break at this point and we'll return shortly to begin the interview. Stick around, please. Don't go away. You're just tuning in, you're watching Galaxy Line, your weekend personality interview program of choice. I'm being joined live in the studio now by one of the senior advocates of Nigeria and a dogged human rights campaigner, Mr. Femi Falana. Yes, let's begin on a human interest point of view. You were a seminarian and all of a sudden you turned a legal practitioner. What happened? Why did you run away from the seminary?
No, like we used to say in those days in the seminary, many are called, but few are chosen. I believe I wasn't chosen for the priesthood. You know.
Who pushed you into it? You took that decision to go, isn't it? Or you were pushed into it?
I was more or less influenced.
Okay.
Because in my teenage years, I was an altar server, you know.
Okay.
What we call a sacristan, you know.
Okay.
And I loved the priesthood, you know.
Okay. You still love it now, though?
That was why I ended up in the seminary.
Mm-hmm.
But after my secondary school education, after 5 years in the seminary, I felt I needed to do something else, you know. Because I didn't believe that I would make a good priest.
Why? Why did you think that way?
I thought I might be too radical for the church.
Ooh. I see.
It was much, much later that we began to hear about liberation theology in Latin America, where priests, came out and then join the people to protest against.
The OGs of this world also emerged in the process.
Yeah, so okay. At that time I thought the priesthood was too narrow for my type of activism.
Now, let's get on the brass facts now. What's your general outlook on the state of the nation, Nigeria? Your general outlook.
The state of the nation is worrisome. The economy is almost in shambles. There is general frustration on the side of the people, particularly the masses, and the Nigerian ruling class. And I'm talking of all factions of the ruling class. Does not appear prepared to take this country out of
the woods.
It requires much more than the integrity of the leadership of the country. It requires not reforms, but revolutionary actions, because the country has collapsed as a result of years of misrule and gross mismanagement of our abundant human and natural resources. The enemies of our people have become institutionalized. So if you are going to fight to liberate the country from the claws, of the most reactionary segment of the ruling class, you need to take very tough revolutionary measures. And that's not going on. With profound respect to the Buhari administration, I haven't seen any indication to run the country and to think outside the box. We're just sustaining the status quo that is pauperizing our people, that is increasing poverty in the country, and preventable diseases, meningitis, cholera, and others, that some of them have been banished from less endowed countries in the world. We're still battling, shamefully with meningitis. A governor during the week, I think the governor of Sanfara somewhere. So, I'm very, very almost an illiterate talk with respect that meningitis must have been caused by fornication. I mean, can you imagine that?
Okay, let's take a look at the recent amendments of the Electoral Act. Critics say all the amendments have achieved is what they call monetization of politics. What's your own take on these amendments?
The amendments are rather diversionary and cosmetic. They are not addressing the problems.
Explain that.
What I mean is, Nigeria is the only country, or rather, Nigeria is the only country where election petitions go on for the duration of the term of an elected person for 4 years. I mean, just yesterday, after 2 years, almost 2 years, the Supreme Court has just ordered the removal of a House of Representative member. There are still governorship cases that are pending in the Supreme Court. That does not happen in any part of the world. So this is not being addressed. How can you have a situation where somebody has stayed in the House of Representatives or Senate for 2-3 years, after that you now order him out and somebody should come and complete his term? So you are paying 2 people for services that should have been rendered by 1 person. Now this is not being looked at. You also have a situation whereby our political system admits of any manner of persons. That is not being looked at. You also have the increasing monetization of the political process. Nobody is looking at that.
But shouldn't some lawyers also try to make inputs, especially when the amendments were coming?
We've done that over and over again. They simply ignore them. I take one. All those who rig elections, all those who manipulate elections, all those who announce fake results of elections are left alone. Once that is done, we are waiting for the next election. The government decided under the Jonathan administration that we need to set up an election tribunal, not election petition tribunal, an election tribunal that would deal with criminal offenses committed during elections.
Yeah, I actually got a question on that. What has happened?
In fact, the then Attorney General was directed by the government in the white paper to set the engine in motion for the setting up of such
courts.
Yeah. But nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Yes. That was also the recommendation of the Justice Muhammad Uwais panel. It was also the recommendation of another panel now, the one headed by Sheikh Lemu. But that doesn't interest the legislators who are amending the law. Because the thugs that disrupt elections, the INEC officials that are bribed to announce false results, are acting on behalf of politicians. Even where cases have been taken to court, you have attorneys general who finally prosecute. Police arrest people, they take them to court. Attorneys general finally prosecute. One, they are thugs of the ruling party all over the country. Now the government is not interested in pursuing their cases.
Also, the critical issue of the law insisting that a party must have official presence in all the states of the federation. I think this is also another aspect.
No, that is bonkun. It's stupid. I mean,
that's another aspect.
No, you see, you can't force
adjusted.
You can't force a party to have national spread. It's expensive. If I want to contest the local government election in Ikeja alone, so be it.
Or councillorship.
So be it. So why must I go and look for a party that has territorial spread all over the country? What is required is for political parties to merge and align, save cost. If you have a political party in Sokoto, one in Calabar, one in Uyo, and one in Ekiti or whatever, and they have similar ideology or principles, they can agree to coalesce if they want to have a national spread, participate in an national election. But why should you ask somebody who wants to contest election to be a councillor to go look for a political party that has national spread?
Or maybe simply on environmental issues only.
Yeah.
Then you go and set up.
There are political parties that are set up to promote the environment, to promote human rights, to fight corruption.
When are we going to arrive at this point?
We're through struggle, you know. All the ongoing amendments now are going to no issue. We have to keep up the struggle until we are able to get there.
Is it possible NBA begins to sponsor people into that Senate? And then these are...
No, that won't make a difference because the NBA is part of the problem of our country, part of the problem of the rule of law. So you are not going to have, the NBA will not be useful in this kind of...
So what do we do? What approach do we have in mind?
It's for the Nigerian people, perhaps led by the labor movement and progressive forces, the new progressive forces.
And that one not bought over already too?
No.
Movement.
No, I mean, just like the NBA, you have people who insist that the proper thing be done, that the rule of law be enforced, that human rights be respected in our country, and that government must obey court orders. So you also have people, but that is the largest concentration of people who have an idea of how the country should be governed. That exploitation should not be the order of the day. So that's why the working class as the producer of the wealth of every country, has to take more than a passing interest in the politics of a country.
Okay, let's zero in on corruption. What's your general assessment of the anti-corruption war strategy of the Buhari administration? Your general assessment of this strategy?
I think it's a misnomer to say that the country is prosecuting a war against corruption.
Really?
I would think that the country is, I think the government is trying to ask a few people to account. Because fighting a war requires much more than
we have seen.
Yeah. If you are going to fight corruption, now I was just reading during the week, that some people in the House of Reps are trying to sponsor a bill to provide a 20 years jail term for corruption. I laughed. Because there is a law which this government has refused to apply that provides life imprisonment for anybody who steals more than 1 million naira from the public treasury. 1 million naira.
More than that.
Oh yes. But now people are alleged and they are convicted for stealing hundreds, of millions, billions.
Billions. Now.
And they are just simply asked, go to prison for 5 years or 2 and say no more. We take what you can trace that you have illegally acquired. However, we'll give you an option of fine. And the fine may be so meager or minimal that you just issue a check in the premises of the court and you go home. That is not how to fight corruption. No.
It should be jail sentence.
Life jail. The law
sentence
provides for life imprisonment. That is the law. I'm talking of Recovery of Public Officers, Special Provisions Act. Incidentally, it was General Buhari. It was Buhari's administration that enacted that law in 1984. The law has now been made to conform with the Constitution. The law is there. Nobody is applying it. Out of class solidarity, the anti-graft agencies prefer to charge those who are alleged to have looted the treasury of the country under the Money Laundering Act, which provides a maximum punishment of 5 years. Whereas a common man, a poor man who has stolen a handset of 5 to 10,000 naira is charged with stealing. And the punishment is 7 years.
All right.
So there is a class dimension to the struggle against corruption. And in all this business, in all of this, what are we doing about the West? The bulk of these stolen funds has been located in the vaults of Western countries and UAE in Dubai. What is the government doing about that? On the contrary, we are rushing to China. We are going to World Bank and IMF. We are asking for a loan. DNAITI, an organization of the government set up to monitor the extractive industry, has just come out with a report during the week that over $20 billion have not been accounted for by the NNPC. Now, if you take half of that money,
10 billion,
that would be enough to chase poverty out of.
Or to deal with meningitis.
Oh, forget that. That's beyond that. Beyond meningitis. You can expel malaria from the continent of Africa. From Nigeria. Because there are countries that have done it. Cuba abolished malaria in 1967.
Way back. Okay. Now, the anti-corruption war machine has hit the judiciary so badly for the first time in the history of Nigeria. As a lawyer and a potential Supreme Court judge, how do you feel?
the judiciary operates within a very corrupt system. So it may be difficult to expect the judiciary or any aspect of our national life, or the universities, or even the media, not to be caught in this cobweb of corruption, the miasma of corruption, all over the place. But I can assure you,
but judiciary is supposed to be sacrosanct.
No, the you can't talk of any institution being sacrosanct. As far as this matter is concerned, the point I'm trying to make, in the midst of the mess, the colossal mess, you have very incorruptible judges in the system. So we must not make the mistake of generalizing. You have good journalists, you have good lawyers, you have good judges. But what we should do, and this is what I try to tell my colleagues in the bar, don't sit down in your chambers to condemn corruption. Let us identify the corrupt judges and lawyers amongst us. Name them and shame them. But don't rubbish everybody.
Okay, the EFCC tried to do exactly what you're saying. Don't you endorse that? Expose them and shame them. That's exactly what they try to do. What's your comment on that?
No, that's another. Oh, that's another, but it's not enough. That's another, but it's not enough.
Some said it was high-handed, it was barbaric.
No. Again, I've said this publicly.
Yes.
I will not, based on my own personal experience, support the raiding of the homes of judges in the dead of the night. I would not even want it for my worst enemy, because I've gone through it before under the military junta, and I know the dangers involved. There was a night I was picked up in my home and taken to Epe Road, dumped on Epe Road, and we didn't have a sprawling city or Lekki then. I was dumped in the bush. At the same time, the late Dr. Bekon Kuti was also captured and dumped on Badagry Road. We managed to get back to town and we addressed the press. The State Security Service denied any knowledge. The police denied any knowledge of what happened to us. We could simply have been killed. It was only 3 years later at Kuje prison when the three of us were now detained. Dr. Bekon Kuti, the late Chief Ganifa, and myself were detained in Kuje prison. That a young man walked to us, a soldier who had a problem with the system, who was being detained in the prison. Now confess to us, sir, we kidnapped the two of you on the 8th of April, 1990. We said, for what? He said, we were planning the Oka coup for April 22. And we wanted to enlist the support of the human rights community. So we wanted to expose the Babangida regime as having kidnapped us. So that when they announced their coup, we would jump to the street. Of course, we're not as sufficiently stupid. Right? So I warn the government, please, criminals can arrest judges in the dead of the night and kill them. It happened in Ghana under Raleigh. 4 judges, including the nursing mother, were kidnapped in the night and killed. So if you want to fight corruption, assuming you had evidence against them,
be civil about it.
Oh yes, you could have stayed on the street or in their premises, and as they are going to their courts or going out in the morning, my lord, please, we have a search warrant to search your house, and that will be the end of the matter. But don't go and waylay any citizen at 1 a.m.
in a Gestapo manner.
It doesn't help the government.
Okay, now, do you believe the notion that corruption is fighting back and virtually overwhelming those?
No, corruption is being allowed to fight back.
That's one point I think.
You see, when the Yoruba people say may you never get caught by the net of the government. That net is so powerful. It can catch anybody.
Oko Ijoba.
Yes. Come back, listen. Oh, it can deal with anybody. You have all the instrumentality of power as a government. You behave as if you are in office and you are not in power. I don't understand it. How can you be prosecuting a criminal suspect and he is dictating the pace of his trial? I don't understand it. What do you want judges to do if you are not prepared to prosecute your case diligently?
The case of Justice Ademola,
yes,
he just got acquitted.
Yes,
people felt that was a kind of fight back. How could the judiciary not exonerate somebody like Justice Ademola in a manner that suggests that this is, corruption fighting back? What's your comment on that?
The way I want to look at it is this. You have cited one, and others may cite only 4. The losses sustained this week, as evidence of conspiracy by the judiciary and the rest of it. I don't share that view.
Really?
I can take the case one after the other. And when you lose a case that you are convinced, as this government is convinced, was wrongly decided, you go on appeal, and the government has appealed.
I think they have.
For me, I can say this. I think in an attempt to free Justice Ademola, with profound respect, Justice Okeke went too far. But this is not unexpected. It's normal. We lose cases every day. We win some.
You lose some.
Yeah. I can tell you this. In the last 1 year, the EFCC under Mango has secured more than 200 convictions. Some of them have to do with political cases. And this government has recovered billions of naira, hundreds of millions of dollars, and properties worth much more have been recovered. And the orders for forfeiture were given by our courts. So I don't think the government is doing badly. But it has to go back to the drawing table and re-strategize. Where did we go wrong? Why did you lose this case? Why did you lose that one? So you re-strategize and move ferociously against criminal elements in the society. But don't be at their mercy.
When they say corruption is fighting back, are we saying that somebody who is wrongly charged and maybe wrongly sentenced too shouldn't protest or shouldn't go to appeal?
No.
And when he does that, you say it's corruption fighting back?
No. I think what is being said is that corrupt elements who are well entrenched in the system are using the resources at their disposal to make a mockery of the anti-corruption work. One, they will start by saying that this is politically motivated. I think we have forgotten that now, because not only are PDP members standing trial, some APC members are standing trial, including those who left the PDP to join the APC. Military officers are standing trial. Business people, including the fuel subsidy suspect or importer, are standing trial. So we've left that. Nobody is now saying this is politically motivated. What is now being said? Is that this? Sometimes they say, well, this is a northern agenda, and the rest of them again that will not work. Oh, Christians are greater in number among those who are being tried. Again, that will not work. So what do you now do? Is for the very corrupt people to use a section of the media to say, oh, it is this political leader who is trying to embarrass PDP, or it is the government now trying to prepare for 2019, so they want to put everybody in the opposition in jail. But is there a basis for your prosecution? Have you stolen money? Have you returned the money? Are you penitent? Are you remorseful? What if you are not doing that? Whether you belong to APC or PDP or whatever, or APD, this system must pursue you until we recover the money you have stolen. Because, mind you, what you call corruption in Nigeria is some other crime. It's a crime against humanity for which people are shot in China. If you steal money meant for a school or a road or a hospital, you are shot. You're executed.
All right. When you meet... Yes, you're welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is Galaxy Line, and my guest in the studio is the one and only Femi Falana, SAN. Yeah, a little bit of digression now from the critical issues. There's this strange phenomenon now being experienced by the Peace Corps of Nigeria. It's on record that this social security organization has been existing for nearly 20 years in Nigeria. All of a sudden, we now begin to hear that the leadership of the Corps is being hounded by the police on charges of constituting security threat. With the news that the National Assembly, some months back, passed a bill establishing that Corps. And people are smelling a rat. What do you smell?
We operate in an atmosphere of impunity, official impunity, whereby government officials have total disregard for the law. And even where a court has given a judgment,
in which case?
They simply behave as if we're operating in a banana republic.
Or under the military?
No, it's even worse. Because in the case of Peace Corps of Nigeria, not less than 5 judgments of our courts
are on ground.
Have recognized their existence. I think we handle a couple. That organization is registered under the Companies and Allied Matters Act. It has a certificate. That organization enjoys affiliation with the United Nations and the African Union. Now, both chambers of the National Assembly have passed a bill that body be recognized. Now, what is the problem? In order to prevent the president from signing the bill into law, it just occurred to the police that this is a dangerous organization. And what happened? Their leader and 48 others were arrested and paraded like
criminals.
Of course. And that compelled me, together with those who were paraded in Ife, that compelled me to do a write-up where I try to educate Nigerians on the legality of parade of suspects. You don't parade the governor who has stolen $1 billion or 10. You don't parade fuel subsidy scammers. You don't parade the rich. You parade the poor. Just like, again, I was forced to write a letter to the IG during the week. The law of wandering was repealed in 1989. So why are you harassing ordinary people? People are being jailed in Abuja. People are standing trial in Lagos for wandering. When a rich man walks around, he says he's enjoying his freedom of movement. You know, if you are obese, you want to lose weight, you are running all over the place, the police will not stop you. But if it's a common man, he says you are loitering, you are wandering. So what the police is doing in the case of Peace Corps of Nigeria is the height of impunity.
Who is stopping this? Who's going to stop it?
I believe the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation has to come in.
By the way, the National Assembly itself that passed a bill to establish this Corps, just standing quiet.
You see, those are the things the National Assembly should be doing. It's not about wearing uniform and, what somebody said out there. You want to summon Professor Sage, because he made a defamatory statement against you according to you. Oh, you must come. Those are irrelevant issues. Again, illegal. So you must take serious issues, like passing an amendment to the Electoral Act substantially, like passing the budget. This is April.
And we have not even had lawyers say a word on this Peace Corps matter.
I have done that, you know.
Left the whole thing hanging.
The NBA hasn't done anything because it's not bothered about human rights, you know. Yeah, people are being detained all over the country illegally. People are being reloaded to jail illegally.
A lot of Nigerians have their money hanging somehow because they applied. Now they put everything on hold. Who is going to?
No, Nigerians must also learn to fight for their rights. We are too
docile.
I think almost beyond docility. And that is why every government takes advantage of Nigerians. And I think it was the late fella that sang that in the 70s that, you know, we always get reason to complain. I've just married, I don't want to suffer. My mama, there for house, you know, and police and the government will just mess you up. We must learn to fight for our rights.
Could this Peace Corps stuff, you know, be part of the impunity that the Amnesty International is always complaining about regarding the conduct of our police and military?
No, for sure. And I think while human rights violations are on the ascendancy in the country, human rights abuse is on the increase. Because this government has refused, after almost 2 years, to reconstitute the Council of the National Human Rights Commission. Because that is the body empowered by law to challenge human rights violations, either on the part of the government or on the part of some big rich people. But that body is not constituted for now. So the army can kill, the police can arrest illegally, and nothing happens.
Is it not inconceivable that all of these things are happening under a government that has a professor of law and a senior advocate of Nigeria as vice president?
No, indeed. This government has about 10 lawyers. I can tell you I'm flabbergasted at the development. I mean, for instance, for the first time in the history of our country, since colonial days, a man and his wife have been detained now for over 1 year. I'm talking of Sheikh Ezaki and his wife. A court in December last year, December 2nd, gave judgment in their favor. I handled the case. Up to now, the government has not released them. So impunity is all over the place. In the National Assembly, in the executive, it's all over the place.
All right. There has been a public outcry against Amnesty International itself. What's your take?
Public outcry? Where? In Nigeria?
Oh, yes.
No, a band of paid thugs were hired.
Oh, that's what you call them.
To waylay their office, to waylay their officials, to surround their office in Abuja and harass the organization. Of course, we caught them on tape when they were sharing money. Dole out to them.
Why should they do that?
No, you should be asking, why should the government allow that embarrassment to be meted out to our country? And what happened? The Amnesty International wrote a report complaining about human rights violations by the army in the Northeast zone. I have government reports that have equally condemned the intimidation and harassment of the civilian population in the Northeast zone. Now, instead of saying, oh, we are going to investigate, you say, oh, Amnesty International is talking rubbish. And then you go on to hire thugs to harass them. Their office, our officials in Abuja. It has portrayed the country
in very bad light.
Oh, terribly bad light. I was forced to write a letter to the president that they could stop
the nonsense.
The embarrassing.
Right, let's get down to the legal profession proper. What's your honest assessment? I don't expect you to to be nasty, you know, on the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the new Chief Justice. Do you see him bringing the judiciary out of the moral dungeon that it has found itself? This arrest of judges and stuff like that. What's your general assessment of this new CJ?
Again, I've said publicly, I believe that the National Judicial Council and the Nigerian Bar Association will have to double their efforts in removing bad eggs from the legal profession. Happily, the new Chief Justice has indicated his determination to wipe out corruption from the bench. But Nigerians have to bring up evidence and submit petitions to the National Judicial Council instead of simply say, oh, Nigerian judges are corrupt. If you have evidence against any of them, please bring it up. I also believe that the Nigerian Bar Association has a greater duty because, again, I've said it publicly, Nigerian lawyers know all corrupt judges, all corrupt lawyers. But we simply speak about this dangerous phenomenon quietly in our dinners and even in the courts. If I'm going to appear in any jurisdiction as a lawyer, you find out the type of judge, you know, before whom your case is pending. And your colleagues in that jurisdiction or division will tell you, will give you a history of the judge, including those who are corrupt. So why I'm asking the NBA, why don't you have a mechanism for dealing with corruption?
No, we're talking now, I'm asking you directly now about our new Chief Justice.
I am saying that he has indicated his wish.
What's the basis of your trust that he will do it? How much of trust do you have?
Everybody is worried. Every concerned member of the bench and the legal profession, as a matter of fact, every concerned member is worried that all of us are being embarrassed. To that extent, I believe that the Chief Justice of Nigeria
will arrest the situation.
Water or not, will not hesitate to direct the NJC to deal with misconduct on the part of judges.
Right. Very quickly, let's move faster.
Because quite unlike the executive and the legislature, the judiciary is the only organ of government that has an inbuilt mechanism for dealing with bad eggs.
Appointment of private lawyers to the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal bench. Doesn't this have some kind of negative implication?
No, I do not support it.
For the judiciary?
I'm totally opposed to it.
Why?
I'm totally opposed to it.
Tell me why.
In any country, in any common law country, it's a rare phenomenon to move a lawyer, to appoint a lawyer from the bar
straight
to the Supreme Court. It's very rare. And the reason is this. Usually, where you have a court of appeal, you always go for the court of appeal for people who have experience, who have stood out, who have knowledge of the law. It is only on rare occasions where you can't get suitable materials in the court of appeal that you may now go to the bench, to the lower bench or the bar. People tell you, oh, it happened in Nigeria before. On the two occasions it had happened, we must find out what happened. It was under the military. And in the case of Justice Elias, as a former Attorney General, not only was he a successful Attorney General, he was an intellectual. He had written books. He was an authority in many areas of the law. In the case of Justice Augustine Amani, again he had written as a successful legal practitioner, he became the Attorney General of the Federation. So he stood out. And that was why the Obasanjo military regime appointed him, I think in 1979. Cool. At that time, we didn't have the Court of Appeal. It was only the Western region that had the Court of Appeal. Justice Esho passed through the Western State Court of Appeal. At the time, Justice Oputa, Justice Craig and others went from the High Court to the Supreme Court. You didn't have the Court of Appeal.
Great. Now, one of your...
Now, I mean, they talk of America, they talk of other places. America hasn't done it since 1972. India, for the past 67 years, has only appointed one lawyer from the bar to the Supreme Court. In the case of England, only one lawyer has been appointed to the Supreme Court.
One of your reasons could also be the fact that if you allow that kind of movement, it will jeopardize the chances, you know, or the career of the judicial officers?
No, actually it's unjust. Because, let's say two of us left the law school at the same time. One decided to go to the bar. The other one, legal practice. I'm going to the bench. And everybody, both of us are making progress. I have now reached the apogee of my career by becoming a senior advocate. You are in the Court of Appeal. Now there is a vacancy for a zone. It's zonal. It's a zonal business. There is now a vacancy in our zone. Naturally, it is your turn. Because I have chosen to be a legal practitioner. And I've attained the height in my profession. Now the height for you is the Supreme Court. Why should I move from here now to take your place? It's unjust. You can only do it if in that zone you have messed up. We now say, okay, there's nobody in that zone. Let's look for a senior lawyer in that zone. Yes, I will have no quarrel with that. But if you want to be a judge from the bar, you must also follow the example of Justice Toby, Chike, and others. As I'm talking to you, I know not less than 3 judges of the National Industrial Court who were senior lecturers. One was even a professor. They have to start in the National Industrial Court. Justice Toby, Chike, and others started in the High Court. So you start in the High Court as an intellectual, as a senior advocate of Nigeria. If you start in the High Court, your contribution will be noticed, and then you can move and progress.
Are you making a protest against this personally, or you are?
No, I've expressed my views to the authorities on it.
And you are not taking it beyond that?
No.
You won't take it to court?
No, it's not a court. It's not a
chargeable.
It's not a matter that you want to pursue in court. Okay. It's a policy.
Okay. All right, let's move on. This complaint about the EFCC and other corporate public prosecutors not doing a thorough investigation or not doing thorough investigation on the, cases they're handling. It has played so well in the acquittal of Justice Demola. They said there's no evidence, just brought these things.
No, don't let's use that.
The point I'm trying to make is, where do you lay the blame? Is it because it's lawyers that are supposed to package all these things? The whole thing, is it not a bad reflection on the NBA?
No. Again, as I said, the government has to decide what it wants to do. And for me, instead of blaming the judiciary for what happened in the last 1 week, I would rather advise the government to go back to the drawing table and re-strategize. If you lose a case and you have appealed, I mean, I can tell you with profound respect, Justice Okeke went too far. He left the application before him, which was whether there was a case to answer. That's what you call no case submission. But he went to the case and delivered a ruling of over 3 hours. I mean, I do not know.
Lampooning virtually.
No, I haven't heard of any no case submission. where a judge has to deliver his ruling for over 3 hours. She took over the entire case, where the accused persons should have been asked to explain their own version of the story that the prosecution has told the court.
He fenced it off.
Took over and now began to deal with the evidence of the prosecution. Of course. That's like playing into the hands of the government if they go on appeal, and they have done that. So, but that is not to say that the government agencies, the Ministry of Justice, and the anti-graft agencies will not have to do much more. I think they're overwhelmed. The EFCC in particular is overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. Although that case was not directly handled by the Ministry of Justice, but the EFCC is overwhelmed. So the government will need more hands, and the government has to look at our history. When Ribadu ran the EFCC, and they recorded a lot of success, there were very senior lawyers outside who prosecuted for the EFCC. Rotimi Jacobs, Wemima Ogunde, Tayo Yetibo, and others. Now, only Rotimi Jacobs is persecuting from outside. That shouldn't be so.
Okay, maybe we can take one.
Because you are facing senior lawyers, mobilized by the people you are prosecuting.
Let's look at some other issues, maybe one or two before we close. Former President Goodluck Jonathan recently was lamenting how politicians in Nigeria have virtually handed over their life and fortunes to the courts. Every little matter, the court has to decide it. I mean, see the PDP problems, it's like everything is hanging in the courts. And he says, hey, that's not right. What's your comment on this?
When he was in power, every little thing was taken to the court, even as a government.
Should the courts override the highest authority of the parties, of the political parties?
For me, once you have a situation where elections are fought in the court, you know, most of the time, the mandate of the people has become irrelevant in Nigeria. It is the courts, the tribunals, that now decide who should be governor, or even the president of a country. Once President Goodluck did little or nothing when he was in power, I'm afraid he has no moral right to criticize what is going on, which he encouraged when he was in power. But that is not to say that this rush to court to settle political matters should not be discouraged. And I think our courts should have a mechanism for sending politicians to an arbitration center, which are now part of our system. Because the courts cannot. We saw it in the trade unions in the 80s. The courts cannot decide who should be president of a trade union or the chairman of a political party. It has to be resolved democratically.
Let me see if I can smuggle in just two quick ones. The unusual staggering of elections, which we now have across the states. Is it a blessing in disguise, sort of?
Well,
it just happened to us.
When you see for INEC, it allows full concentration in a few areas where elections are staggered.
Right.
But it's quite expensive. It's much more expensive than having an election at the same time. It's expensive, much more expensive.
More wasteful.
More wasteful, but it's already part of our system. There's nothing we can do about that for now.
You don't see it as
the best.
You don't see it as a blessing in disguise.
No, I think we should just make the best out of it for now. It's not the best.
The unending cases of academic qualification, forgery, and perjury in key institutions. One wonders, you know, how they pass through the system.
It's part of the impunity
and the corruption.
How many people have been prosecuted for forgery
and perjury
in the last 20 years or thereabout? So what do you expect? Once, and I say this, Nigerian members of the ruling class travel abroad. The moment you land in Dubai airport, or Accra, or London, or New York, You adjust yourself.
That's right.
If you drive, you can't disobey a traffic light.
That's right.
You must even queue up there. But here, you are a big man if you are in government. So you have no regard for the law. So is this impunity?
Secret cult societies all over the place, are they not also causing much of the damage to the country system?
I don't think so.
Membership of secret cult societies?
No, you have always had them. I mean, people, you know,
particularly even the legal profession.
No,
it's like you.
It's no longer so.
If you don't join, you don't make it.
No. In those days, that was the belief that if you didn't belong to one Ogboni or another secret society,
you can never make it as a lawyer.
In fact, I can't remember the last time anybody discussed any fraternity in the legal profession. Frankly speaking,
okay,
I do not know any serious lawyer who believes that he needs to join a club to win his case. He must be a stupid man. Okay. He will lose the cases, all of them.
I think it's on that note we will have to call it quits on this program. Today is so much more to talk about. And my brother and friend here is quite ready, very ready to talk, but there's no time. I want to thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much
for making it to be here. I hope I can find you again.
I hope so too.